Okay, so we're about to go into the first contender on the aphid shoot. And while originally I had planned to do this as just one video and put everything into it with the three systems, I realized that's not going to work. As the testing went, there are certain areas in which some of these systems did better than others, and there's certain areas where they just did not perform well at all. And I felt that it was important to give each one of these systems that entire time so you can see the entirety of the testing. So this is going to be about 20 minutes. If you really don't want to watch the entire thing and you just want to get to the meat and potatoes, I get it. Skip to this time right here. It's going to take you right there. Otherwise, you can watch the whole thing. Now, this entire thing has been left unedited with exception of a period where I was fumbling around for about 3 minutes and it was quiet, nothing was going on, and I was trying to get a correction done on the interval length or the length of time in order to run a move. And that's explained during it. But other than that, it's completely open. So you see exactly how it looks when the camera moves. You see the results and all that. So so jump forward if you don't want to see it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started and dive on in. This is the Emotimo Spectrum ST4. Okay, everybody, I got the first contender up, and that's the Emotimo Spectrum ST4 with the Blackmagic 6K and the Infinity Optics T160 Robusto Lite lens. Whew. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some really high magnification filming with this, and what we're going to be filming are aphids. So I got a monitor set up so I can see what this camera is going to be recording, and then I'll show you how the movement looks, and we're going to be doing several different tests. The first test is going to be just getting a feel for the movement of it. How easy is it to control the camera, okay, or control the positioning of the camera at this magnification. The next test is going to be a to B keyframe live move, and then the third test will be that A to B keyframe time lapse. And let's see how it handles if we do shoot, move, shoot, and break these up into like incredibly tiny segments. So everything here is incredibly, you got to be very careful not to bump anything, so I'm trying really hard not to. I got the PlayStation controller. I'm going to disconnect that so I'm not touching anything, as this thing can bounce. And let's see if we can find, them. Okay, there's the guy. Okay, this is the one I was looking at a little bit earlier. And the question is, how does the movement on this look? How accurate and slow and just gentle can we make the movement? Now, as you see, there's a little bit of vibration that happens anytime I engage the focus. At least I think that's it. It could just be me talking into it. So let's just kind of move around and let's just kind of see how this looks. A little bit of movement when the focus goes, but not much. If this was attached to a 15 mil rut system underneath, this movement would be horrendous. But this part of it's just me talking, I think. So let's try again. We're going to go back and forth a few times. Oh, try that again. See, what I'm trying to do is just bounce between these two little dudes and see if I can get the focus. It's a nice gradual move. See, it's tough. What's this guy doing? He's waving at his buddy. So I'm going to dial down the motors a little bit more on this. I've got a custom tuning that I put into this. And we're just going to knock that down by half. Get the focus on. Let's try to bounce between one to the next. See, it seems to want to, it's like it hits a little bit of an acceleration at some point. You just got to know to back off. Let's try to tune this a little bit more. What I did was I just turned down the acceleration. And all I'm dealing with is the pan tilt. Here we go. Get on this little guy. Okay, now back to the other one. I'm just going to try to go a circle around this dude. Let's see if we can just make him move in a little circle. Oop. Let's dial this down a little bit more. Okay, this might be about a good spot. I have it really cranked down. Oop, wrong way on the focus. So as you can see, this is a real challenge. But I can pretty much put things wherever I want them. Let's find another spot. Let's get this focus out a bit. Sometimes it's just hard to figure out where you're at. There we go. I think that's aphid P. All right. Let's see if we can find another target. These guys. Look at those little babies. I tell you, this is really challenging even with the Spectrum. Oh, here we go. This is a nice target. Start with him, and we'll bring it back down. I think I'm breathing on it. This kind of work is really tough. Okay, we're going to start there and go down and just pull that focus and see how smooth we can get this. See, the one thing I noticed with the Spectrum is it starts to increase in speed the longer you hold it, which is the acceleration. So maybe what I need is instant acceleration. All right. Let's try that again. I want to get back up to the other guy. So I've got these motors turned so far down that it actually lets me get some pretty nice slow moves. Okay, so we're just going to go down. Pull that focus. I mean, this is not bad, right? This is pretty good, you know? I mean, think about what we're filming. It's an aphid, and we're trying to move around really small spaces. So let's go ahead and do something a little bit different. I'm going to keep it in define one, and what we're going to do is we're going to set up a program shot. We're going to do video, and we're going to do pan tilt. We're going to start here is going to be our starting point, and then ending point, we're going to bring it up here and put it on this cricket, or not cricket, it almost look like crickets of this size, this little aphid over here, okay? Now I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to go. I've had some weird stuff happen with the Emotimo before when it comes to setting up really small moves because of backlash in it, and let's see what happens. So we're just going to go up, duration, I don't know why it's saying 15 minutes, hold on. We'll go up to live motion, we're just going to put on time lapse. So we're changing the speed so we can actually hit the speed we want. Okay, I sped this part up because I goofed up and I had the motors turned way down when setting up the move from point A to point B. So when it calculated the time, it came up with 15 minutes in order to accomplish the move. So it was a little bit easier just to reset it, but this took a while, so sorry. Okay, we got pretty much everything set up here. And let's see if we run into a problem. Let's see where the backlash compensation puts us. So I'm going to go to start. Oh, look, though. It got me pretty much in the right spot. We're going to go ahead and run this. I think it's going to be 16 minutes. Here it goes. Look at that. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay, so we're gonna reset that and let's run it. Let's watch it one more time. Let's see if it retrieves the, okay. Running again. Not bad. I'm pretty happy about that. And we're going to try and keep in mind the size of the focus did not make it. The focus went too far. Not bad, but the focus goes a little bit too far. Let's try to get it on point. All right, so we just adjusted the focus. We can do it again. Start. Okay, you know what? That's pretty darn good. I'm pretty excited. It's done really well. I guess the next step is going to be to do a time lapse. And I'll just have to show you the results of that. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have the camera running on its own timer. I'm just going to set it in 1 second intervals. And then we'll just punch that in and we can take a look and see the results with the time lapse and how well it does breaking those small pieces up. Okay, so I'm going to go to presets. Okay. I'm going to go to reset, program, shoot, and we're going to change this from video to time lapse. And let's break this down to 240 frames. Let's see if we can do 10 seconds at 240. Of course, I'm filming at 30, so it won't do that, but whatever. Interval 2 seconds. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is go over to here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my interval is set for 2 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to start with the black magic. And these aren't going to be linked up. They're going to be running free. We're going to go ahead and go to start. All right. It doesn't look like it got all the way over, but we're going to run and just see how well it slices those 240 frames up. So I'm going to start this and then head out for a few. Okay, let's look at some of the footage. Right here, this is all live control, so I'm just controlling this directly with the PlayStation controller. As you can see right out of the camera with no editing, the footage is already very smooth. However, the lightest bit of breeze or vibration is going to show up so it may be worth doing a small warp stabilization in order to clean things up just a little bit. However, looking at this really kind of shows the attention to detail that the Emotimo team put into interfacing with the controller and ensuring the highest level quality of precision control. This has been a wonderful asset for this kind of work, and I've used it quite a bit at this point. Nice, smooth moves. So going from an A to B keyframe, this is once again straight out of camera, no editing, and you see there's a little bit of vibration in there as it starts to pick up and starts moving its way along. But if you consider this thing is moving a fraction of a degree, it's pretty impressive that it can still ramp and increase and decrease speeds and get its targets relatively well. Took a couple efforts, but overall I think this looks pretty nice. Here it is with a 5% warp stabilization added to it. Really is amazing how much that can clean up the footage, and you don't need very much of it, just a very light touch. Moving on here, this is a time lapse, and this one had a little bit more problems, but I think there was some wind or some kind of a breeze going in the studio. Because if you look, even after it stops its move, you'll see that it continues to make a little bit of vibration in there, and that's definitely not the camera, because when the camera's not moving, it doesn't move. So in order to correct this, I just added, once again, a nice light 5% warp stabilization. And it just cleans it right up. There's no problem at all. Here's the next move. Once again, looking pretty good, even at a very high magnification. Look at that little dude next to his big buddy. So we're all wrapped up on this, and honestly, this went actually a little bit better than I expected, and I'll tell you about that in a second. First off, I use the system. I use the Spectrum for this kind of work all the time. It's my go-to system for that, and the reason of doing these other two is I thought it might be interesting to do this Shootout. Plus, I was kind of hoping the other two were going to perform really well because, like I said, sometimes my Spectrum is in use, and if it's in use, it might be in use for 3 months, and I need to be able to do this kind of work. So it's going to be fun to try and see, you know, how were the other system capable of doing this. The Spectrum did exactly as I expected. It did a very good job. Brian and their team did a very good job of writing firmware for the PlayStation 4 controllers that connect up to it, where it has an incredibly low lag. It almost feels like it's mechanically coupled to the system, and that's one of the reasons why I can get such high success with it. It's just, for motion control, it's just a hard system to beat. It really is. Now, not everything's perfect, though, and in this case, it did work a little bit better than I expected in a couple areas. And what happened is, if you look at when you're doing a keyframe with the Emotimo, you set up on keyframe 1, then you move over to the key where you're going to put keyframe 2, and you lock that in place. And then when you go to start it, it will reel everything back to keyframe 1, but it'll go back beyond. It goes further back, and then it pulls it back in order to reel in any potential backlash. Now, sometimes that doesn't hit its mark very well. This time it actually did a really good job, but other times where I'm hitting it, it will be off by quite a bit. So it's kind of a hit and miss. So depending on what I'm doing it, I'll give it a couple tries. If it's not getting there, I'll just do it live with the controller. And in fact, I've gotten to the point where I just prefer it to do that way, and I'll deal with the keyframes if I'm going to do time lapse. However, in this case, it did very well. Now, none of them seem to hit the right point with the keyframing. But then again, when you look at the level of magnification that we're doing, I think that's forgivable because we are really in there. And that lens sits out there, you know, and it exaggerates those movements. So we might be moving like a total distance of like half a degree and then splitting that up about 250 shots and expecting the system to be able to ramp through it. So it's quite impressive that any of these systems are able to do it. The Spectrum has done a fantastic job though. So if you guys are in the market for a system to do this kind of work, this is definitely something to look at. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the next system right now, which is the Kessler Crane second shooter, and we'll see how that one fares.